The walls did not shake and no meter spiked, yet the room felt tighter with every second as the tone pressed on, too low to name, too real to ignore. Welcome to the hum, a sound many hear but few can record. In quiet neighborhoods and coastal towns, people describe a persistent low thrum that resists microphones and explanations. Tonight, we follow the reports, the measurements, and the uneasy silence that surrounds them. Before it had a name, long before news crews arrived and science papers followed, the hum existed as a whisper shared between exhausted neighbors. It wasn't something people described easily, not a melody, not a ringing, but a low, persistent presence that crept in at night. It disturbed sleep, and over time, it quietly unsettled lives. In the 1970s, this elusive sound began to gain public attention in the United Kingdom. Clusters of complaints emerged, and one city came to define the mystery: Bristol. Locals described a low-frequency noise that defied capture and explanation. Some could feel it more than they heard it, a subtle pressure against the body, often most intense indoors. But in a room of people, maybe only one could detect it. That isolation deepened the unease. By the 1990s, another hotspot drew focus, this time in the desert town of Taos, New Mexico. The phenomenon reached such a pitch there that it prompted formal investigation. Universities and government labs, including Los Alamos National Laboratory, deployed resources to study it. Using oscilloscopes and spectrum analyzers sensitive to infrasonic and barely audible frequencies, researchers attempted to catch the hum in the act. They went door to door, speaking with residents who agreed to help, people who had been living with the sound for years. Some described a diesel engine-like drone in the range of 30 to 80 hertz, strongest after dark. Others spoke of a sensation more than a sound, a heavy vibration that seemed to lodge behind the ears or deep within the chest. Maps were drawn, peak times were logged, yet again and again, the data fell short of delivering answers. Recordings rarely yielded anything definitive. Where one person felt the hum acutely, their neighbor might hear nothing at all. According to archived studies referenced in sources like The Hum, Wikipedia, and the BBC's Bristol hum coverage, no single technical cause could be reliably identified. The pattern wasn't limited to the UK or New Mexico. Reports echoed across parts of Canada, Australia, and coastal Europe. Wherever the hum surfaced, so too did a familiar cycle: sincere complaints, inconclusive tests, and a restless silence as researchers left with more questions than certainty. Faced with the inexplicable, communities adapted in practical ways. Some people ran electric fans at night to mask the hum. Others installed heavy curtains to dampen vibrations or, when possible, relocated entirely. The World Health Organization, in their environmental noise guidelines, acknowledged that low-frequency sound can have subtle but disturbing effects on well-being, even when measurable sources remain elusive. Despite all this, scientists and engineers persist, convinced that some phenomenon lies at the root of the hum, something measurable, if only it would hold still long enough to be caught. Clues at the edge of hearing patterns began to emerge, subtle, inconsistent, and often maddening. Reports from across the globe pointed to eerily familiar details. For many, the hum was most perceptible indoors, especially in homes with large flat walls or bare floors. These surfaces, it seemed, might act like inadvertent amplifiers, resonating with elusive frequencies just below conscious hearing. Nightfall intensified the phenomenon. The distant hush that replaced daytime traffic seemed to heighten the hum's presence. With the masking sounds of daily life withdrawn, something deeper crept in, a faint pressure, a soft droning, impossible to trace. Geography played a curious role. Rural valleys and sheltered coastal inlets saw more reports, as if the land itself might be conspiring to trap low-frequency energy. In a few investigations, atmospheric science offered a clue. Microbaromes, pressure waves generated far out at sea by massive storms, could carry across continents. Teams recorded them, deep, barely there pulses, rippling inland from distant oceans. On industrial nights, other culprits emerged. Ventilation units, distant generators, and humming compressors sometimes made appearances in spectral analyses. Their fingerprints showed up as uneven, comb-like patterns. These noises, broad and mechanical, might stretch across the low-frequency range, but even then, the hum remained elusive. Strangely, those most affected often reported the greatest discomfort during periods when instruments detected little or nothing. A house could feel suffocating with an incoming tide, yet tests showed silence. A factory might shut down for maintenance, and still the sound or the sensation persisted. In some cases, investigators captured low tones in the 40 to 60 hertz range. But when played back, listeners shook their heads. That wasn't it. What emerged wasn't a single discovery, but a troubling realization. The hum was not one sound, it was many. Or perhaps it was a perception shaped by overlapping triggers, mechanical systems, atmospheric patterns, unique architecture, and the human body's own sensitivities. At the edges of hearing where sound blurs into feeling, the hum settled in, a hazy convergence of the local and the distant, the measurable and the internal. A night the tide carried a tone. It began on a windless autumn night. In a small coastal town embraced by rock and tide, something unseen, but not unheard, stirred. At first it was subtle. Then, as if coordinated, the phone at the local council office began to ring. One call after another described the same quiet dread, like a truck idling far away but it never pulls in. 12 callers. 12 variations on a sound with no source. Responding to the surge of complaints, authorities deployed monitoring equipment to a modest brick bungalow on the edge of the bay. Inside, inspectors arranged a Class 1 precision microphone in the living room and placed a microbarometer outside to capture air pressure fluctuations. Tools typically sensitive enough to detect spectral anomalies. The family did what they could to help. They powered down the refrigerator, silenced the air circulation, and unplugged even the aquarium pump. The result was a home quieter than most people ever experience. Yet within that silence, the sensation of the hum seemed to intensify. Instrumentation revealed a subtle low rise in energy below 80 hertz, near the floor of human hearing. Nothing discrete, nothing that pointed to a culprit. According to the World Health Organization's environmental noise guidelines, prolonged low-frequency exposure can impact health, yet there are no standardized thresholds for transient hums, such as this one. Outside, the harbor stood still. Cranes loomed motionless against the dark sky. The ferry, its engines quiet, rested at anchor. Neighbors emerged too, drawn by the same uneasy insistence. One man, standing barefoot on his porch, said he felt it more than he could hear it, in steady pulses, like breathing. Investigators made a note of the time. Tidal charts later showed it coincided precisely with the turn of the tide, a detail curiously aligned with other global reports, such as the Taos hum in New Mexico, where geography and hydrology have also been quietly speculated upon. By dawn, the readings showed nothing that violated local noise ordinances. The logbooks told a different story. The family had taken shifts through the night, uneasy and alert. Their sleep fractured by something the instruments barely acknowledged. The official summary read, "Complaint substantiated by perception, not confirmed by instrument." The file was closed, then filed away, another entry in a growing archive of audio ghosts, flickering at the edge of science and sensation. Meters, ears, and the space between investigators approached the hum like a puzzle scattered across both instruments and minds. They began with the tools of acoustic science, high-sensitivity microphones fitted with dense windshields, capable of filtering wind and handling long-duration recordings. Their focus narrowed to the low-frequency band, spanning 20 to 200 hertz. Using third-octave analysis, they examined the spectrum in fine detail, trying to catch the hum in the act. But sound, it turned out, wasn't the only suspect. Geophones were brought in to measure vibrations in the ground, subtle tremors below audibility. Microbarometers watched for fluctuations in air pressure that might mimic a tone. External patterns were charted as well. Power grid loads, passing ships, ventilation cycles, distant storms, all were tracked in parallel with spectral activity. Then came the medical angle. Suspected hearers were evaluated to rule out the familiar culprit. Tinnitus. Audiometry tests mapped hearing thresholds. Masking trials studied how other sounds interrupted the hum. Detailed questionnaires gathered accounts of onset, location, and emotional state. Some participants underwent deeper probing. Tests checked for spontaneous otoacoustic emissions, tiny sounds the ear can generate by itself. Others explored somatosensory effects, where physical movement or touch could modulate the perception of the tone. In specialized listening rooms, participants were exposed to carefully shaped low-frequency tones embedded in pink noise. The goal: determine whether their perceptions aligned with measurable stimuli. The outcomes, however, remained unclear. In some neighborhoods, an industrial source or infrastructure component could be linked to the noise. Yet those cases were the exception. In sound-isolated chambers, a few individuals still described a persistent hum, even when recording devices captured only the faint hiss of silence, thermal noise, the threshold of nothing. By the end of each investigation, researchers were left with two piles that wouldn't sit neatly together. One held verified traces of low-frequency sound in the environment. The other held authentic human accounts, detailed, consistent, often distressing, that sometimes left no measurable trail. In the space between them, the mystery endured. Many causes, partial answers. The search for an answer to the hum is a story told in fragments, some mechanical, some medical, others altogether mysterious. With each explanation offered, a corner of the phenomenon becomes clearer, but the full shape remains elusive. Industrial sources are often the first suspects. Machinery like ventilation fans, compressors, water pumps, or massive electrical transformers can emit low-frequency vibrations. These sounds may travel not just through the air, but through the very bones of buildings, creating a resonance that some people feel as much as hear. At night, when ambient noise fades, these subtle emissions can become strikingly apparent. Then there is the broader acoustic environment, distant highways, rail lines, and shipping lanes. Low-frequency energy from these sources can travel for miles, especially under certain atmospheric conditions. Some researchers also propose that natural causes, such as microbaromes, infrasound generated by oceanic storms, or minor continuous seismic tremors, might contribute to what is heard in select locations. Recent attention has also turned to renewable energy. Wind turbines, particularly due to a phenomenon known as amplitude modulation, produce periodic shifts in low-frequency sound. While some residents near wind farms report hearing or feeling a pulsing, the evidence is mixed. The audible impact seems highly dependent on turbine design, landscape, and individual sensitivity. Others have looked higher up the spectrum to communication. Very low frequency, VLF, transmissions used for navigation and military communication have been named as possible culprits. Yet measurements of these signals typically fall far below auditory thresholds. Medical and psychoacoustic theories round out the field. Tinnitus, the perception of sound in the absence of an external source, is a known phenomenon. So are conditions like hyperacusis, where sensitivity to certain frequencies is heightened. There's also spontaneous otoacoustic emissions, sounds the inner ear itself can produce without stimulus. Attention may be part of the key. What begins as a faint presence can spiral into fixation. Expectation sharpens awareness, stress and sleeplessness amplify subtle disturbances. In this way, the hum could be as much neurological as environmental, shaped by the very act of noticing. According to the World Health Organization's environmental noise guidelines, even low-level continuous noise, especially at night, can lead to distress, fatigue, and sleep disruption. These are hallmarks echoed in case after case. Each explanation manages to illuminate a piece of the puzzle. Yet none can claim a complete map. Somehow the hum appears to be not one signal, but many, local phenomena, layered by environment, biology, and perception. A low note in the world's background, highlighted by a brain that cannot ignore it. Communities in the quiet. When a community joins the growing list of places haunted by the hum, a familiar rhythm begins to unfold. The response almost always is practical. Municipalities revise local noise ordinances. now careful to specify low-frequency thresholds, once thought irrelevant. Heavy industries respond too, shrouding motors in acoustic insulation or redirecting airflow from large cooling systems. Shipping ports, especially near residential zones, modify their overnight timetables in a nod to sleepless neighbors. Acoustic maps, more granular than ever, begin to appear in council reports, color-coded by frequency bands, annotated with timestamps of disturbances. These visualizations tell a story in gradients, where the sound strikes hardest and when. Still, for those who hear the hum, coping becomes an intimate, nightly choreography. A fan in the corner becomes a sound mask. A mattress shifts away from the shared wall. Thick curtains, bookshelves, even rugs are deployed as makeshift sound baffles. Some find solace in the early morning air, stepping outside before dawn, letting the chill and birdsong cleanse the auditory fog. Online forums become lifelines. There, strangers separated by oceans share decibel logs, decaf tea recommendations, and journal notes from restless nights. Patterns emerge, shared frequencies, surprising gaps, and haunting similarities. Some residents eventually move, and for a few the hum fades away, left behind in old wiring or stubborn appliance drones. But others take it with them, an uninvited passenger embedded somewhere between the ear and the mind. As noted in stat pearls and audiological literature, distinguishing the hum from conditions like low-frequency tinnitus remains a challenge, one that individual perception often complicates. Meanwhile, scientists persist. More sophisticated sensors are deployed, some buried in soil, some mounted along coastlines. Models are refined, comparisons drawn. Yet across all the charts and spectrograms, one metric remains curiously human. How many hours did I sleep last night? The hum continues, not just in sound, but in memory. It hums through archived city council minutes, in environmental studies filed away with quiet urgency, and in message boards time-stamped for 2:43 a.m. It is perhaps a quiet anthem of our modern world, resonating just beyond what we were designed to hear. Hearing without proof, the hum remains one of the few modern mysteries that sits squarely between science and sensation. It's not just a sound, it's a question, one that hums along the edge of perception, testing the limits of what we consider real. For those who hear it, the experience is unmistakably physical. A low rhythmic vibration, a throb in the bones, a sense that the world itself is murmuring beneath the surface. Yet in most cases, noise meters remain unmoved. Seismographs stay silent. The instruments that often bridge the gap between phenomena and proof suddenly seem irrelevant. And that is what makes the hum unnerving. It asks us to trust individual experience even when data fails to corroborate it. It draws a line between measurable sound and perceptible noise, and then blurs it. According to the World Health Organization's environmental noise guidelines, chronic exposure to low-frequency noise can affect health and well-being, though it makes no definitive claims about phenomena like the hum. Similarly, research cited in stat pearls distinguishes subjective tinnitus, a phantom sound heard without external stimuli, from objective tinnitus that can be clinically measured. But the hum doesn't fit neatly into either category. It's too shared to be purely subjective, yet too elusive to pin down with consistent objective tools. In places like Taos, Bristol, and Largs, the hum suggests that truth may not always be universal. It might be intimately local. One room hears it, the next does not. So what constitutes reality in a world where some sounds exist only for certain ears? When silence to one person is a torment to another. The hum insinuates that perhaps science and experience are not opposing forces, but pieces of a larger, unfinished puzzle. And maybe, when it comes to listening carefully, certainty isn't the goal, but the thing we risk losing first. This has been Nightmare Nook, where mysteries speak softly and stay late. Subscribe for the next investigation, and keep your ear to the quiet places where explanations thin and the night begins to hum.